Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you very much for tuning in. Joining us on the phones right now, GOP political strategist Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for joining us today. Matt, earlier I spoke, we had Alice Stewart on the show to talk about this, the memo that was released on Friday. I want to get your reaction to it, to the memo that was released Friday, and really the reaction from, I guess, different Republicans. Trey Gowdy said that this doesn't, I guess, clear the president of anything, and the president saying that this is, this does help clear his name. What did you take away from this memo that was released?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is, I think there's been some hyperbole on both sides. I don't think this quote vindicates the president or, removes him from any potential legal issues. I also don't think it's the nothing burger that the Democrats are just using to describe it. I think it raises serious questions about the FISA process. I think there's more that we're going to learn. It sounds like the Intelligence Committee on the majority side is going to continue to produce additional memos, including one that may target the State Department. I think there's going to likely be pressure that the FISA application be released over time, as well as the transcript of Andrew McCabe's testimony to the Intelligence Committee when he reportedly said that the dossier was that there would not have been a FISA process, or there would not have been a FISA warrant without the dossier. We have to know whether he said that or not. But so, look, I actually agree with Trey Gowdy. I'm not sure I believe that this memo directly affects the Mueller inquiry, except to say that, for Manafort and Gates, and potentially for Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos, they may have some legal arguments that they can make on their own behalf now if any of the evidence being used against them came from a FISA warrant that may have been approved, that shouldn't have been approved. Look, as Trey Gowdy said over the weekend, I mean, judges don't do research. They can only consider the information that's provided to them. And so we need to know whether the origin and the source of the dossier, the fact that a political opponent had paid for it and was basically authorized it, that would have been important information for the FISA judge to have. It's not clear whether they had that information or not. It sounds like it may have been footnoted in the FISA application. So, we'll see where this goes. Obviously, Democrats have their own memo that they want to release. I imagine that will be released once it can be appropriately redacted and not release classified information. So, look, I think the memo was useful. I didn't see anything in there that revealed sources and methods. The Democrats, I think, were pretty hysterical in the days that led up to it being released. But, I think it raises some very serious questions about the FISA process, and I think we're going to learn quite a bit more in the coming weeks.
Is it possible we are, and we may already be there, with distrust now with the FBI, and I think you have a lot of Republicans now who distrust the FBI, who maybe did not have distrust in the FBI 3 years ago, but now all of a sudden they do. If the Democrats target the State Department, you're going to have people question the State Department. Are we going to a place where we just can't trust any of, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the State Department, the White House, Congress? Are we getting to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I have concerns about that. I think there's something like 30,000 employees at the FBI, and right now we're talking about 4 or 5 of them that there are questions about. But obviously the public has to have trust in these institutions for government to function. And you can imagine a scenario where something terrible happens, a terrorist attack happens, or is thwarted. We're going to have to trust and rely on these institutions, particularly institutions like the FBI and the CIA. So, I don't know how deep all this is. I know that there's enough smoke around this whole thing that there are some real questions I think that need to be answered. Look, I mean, if this whole thing was just a kind of silly controversy, you wouldn't have had, I think it's now 4 or perhaps 5 individuals who've either been demoted or taken off the Mueller inquiry. Yeah. You had the 2 FBI agents. You had Baker, who I believe was general counsel. You've had two other individuals. So obviously, as Mueller has learned more about some of these things, he's taken some action because he obviously doesn't want his inquiry to not appear to have been, conducted the right way and conducted in a fair and above-board way. So, I do think Republicans need to be careful not to paint with a broad brush and attack, every law enforcement agency, every law enforcement employee. There are tens of thousands of people that are working, in an underpaid way to protect the country in jobs that most of us wouldn't want or wouldn't be qualified to do. But again, if let's take the kind of most extreme possibility here, and that is that you had a number of individuals, perhaps even in the Obama administration, that were basically trying to use political opposition research to go after a political opponent in the middle of a presidential campaign using government to do it. That's a pretty serious charge. Right. I don't know that we have that evidence yet, but I think there are enough questions and there's enough smoke around this thing that we need to learn more. And so that's why I think the memo needed to be released. I mean, it's not up to the FBI to decide what level of oversight Congress can do for it.
Right.
Of it. Ultimately that's up to Congress to do. And so again, the Democratic memo will come out. It sounds like Nunes is doing another memo on the State Department. We're going to see hopefully transcript of McCabe's testimony and the FISA application, the original FISA application. I think all those things are going to happen in the next few weeks, and we're going to learn a lot more than we know right now.
Good. Wrapped up in all of this, February 8th is another date. Once again, we're coming right up on it, where we have to get a spending bill done, or else the government may shut down. So, what do you think is going to happen on February 8th?
I think they're going to do another 1 month extension. I know it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way to govern. It's a ridiculous way to budget. But they obviously don't have a deal on the budget caps, and they don't have a deal on DACA yet. It's hard to know exactly how much progress they've made in the last month. I worked in Congress for 4 years, from 2005 to 2009 on the Senate side, and one of the things you learn when you work up there, and even if you haven't worked up there, you can see it, and that is that nothing happens without deadlines. Deadlines force action. And so, when they continue to kind of kick the can down the road, all it does is it buys them a month. And so they all go home for the weekend, and there's no urgency, and they meet kind of, whenever they feel like it. I don't know how urgent all these issues have been taken. Obviously, you have a lot of other things that are taking attention right now. So, it looks like it's going to be punted for another month. This can't continue, and they're going to get to a point where the Republicans won't continue to extend. That the Democrats are going to have to provide the votes, because you have enough defense hawks, certainly in the House, that really believe that these 1 month extensions are putting tremendous pressure on the Pentagon and on the military. They cannot prepare and plan with 1 month extensions for the budget when most of the things that they do take years to put together.
Any chance, after what we saw, I guess it was last month now, everything seems to run together nowadays. In any chance the Democrats vote to shut down the government once again?
I don't think so. That played so poorly. They lost so badly last time. I really think that's unlikely. I guess you can't guarantee it, but you're dealing with human beings, and there are a lot of pressures on their side of the aisle. You've got 15 or 20 of those people running for president. All the energy's on the far left. They all want to stick it to Trump however they can. And you obviously have the Dreamer activists that really don't want to compromise in any way. So I guess it's still a possibility. I think it's unlikely. I think that they realize that they were blamed for shutting down the government last time, that it wasn't going to work, and that it fractured their party at a time when they want to be unified to the greatest extent possible.
Real quick, Matt, on the statewide scene, Andrew White, Democratic candidate for governor, I believe he got the endorsement of both the Dallas Morning News and the Houston Chronicle. Lupe Valdez, she entered this thing, I guess, seemingly the leading candidate to lose to Greg Abbott. Is it now Andrew White's nomination to lose for the Democrats?
I think it is, and that's a shocking development in the last 2 months. you would think the more liberal candidate would have would have a leg up on the Democratic side, because that's where the energy and the enthusiasm and the money are. Lupe Valdez has been a pretty disastrous candidate so far. I mean, every time she opens her mouth, she says something stupid. She demonstrates that she has almost no knowledge of how the state works from a government perspective. I forget if it was the Dallas Morning News or Houston Chronicle that said they were stunned by her lack of knowledge. She's made a number of kind of gaffes on the campaign trail about whether she's whether she's in favor of increasing taxes or not. She said something silly about how she's raising $300 a day as a candidate, which is a ridiculously low amount of money. She's only raised $50,000 so far, and Andrew White is, lapping her by a multiple of 20 or maybe even 50 so far. Again, keep in mind that they drafted her to run late. She had to give up her job as county sheriff in Dallas County. And I think that the cavalry just doesn't appear to be coming. We'll see what she raised in January. Maybe that'll tell us a little more, whether she's catching up or not. But boy, so far she's been a real dud, and it's again another sign of how sort of feckless and ridiculous the Texas Democratic Party is. That even when they recruit a candidate for governor, they can't seem to put a real campaign together and find a good person to challenge the sitting governor.
Yeah, Matt, tell folks about how they can sign up for your newsletter and your latest podcast as well.
Yeah, the podcast is called Mac on Politics. Just put up our 67th episode with Biana Goladriga, who's a correspondent for CBS News. We talk about all this Russia stuff, as well as the economy and just politics. You can find that on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and on the web at mackonpolitics.com. As you know, Chad, we do a daily weekday email on Texas politics called Must Read Texas. You can sign up at mustreadtexas.com. There's a 7-day free trial. 3,000 Texans every day receive that email.
All right, Matt, as always, appreciate it. We'll visit with you next week.
Take care.
You too. That's Matt Mackowiak.